I've had this idea simmering in the back of my mind for about a month now of a layered tart that I'd like to try. It's a savoury tart and it will hopefully work really nicely for parties, buffets, that kind of thing. I'm using a whole wheat pastry as the base. Then I'm going to make some Burmese tofu flavoured with za'atar. Then there'll be a layer of caramelised onions, a layer of roasted mushrooms, and then some roasted red peppers on top. It's a multi-step recipe, but you can either substitute different ingredients, leave them all out and try different things. But this is more to give you some ideas. So I'll start off with the pastry because that needs a little bit of time in the fridge to chill out. In my bowl I've got 300 grams of wholemeal bread flour. You can use probably any type of flour, but you might just have to adjust the fat and water content if you're using safe plain white flour. I'm adding 2 tablespoons of Nooch, nutritional yeast, to give it a slightly cheesy, nutty sort of flavour. At this stage I'm going to add some salt and pepper. This is 150 grams of vegan butter. If you're anything like me and forget to take your butter out before you need it, if you put a cup of hot water in the microwave and warm it for 2 minutes, and then very quickly stick the bowl in, close the door and just leave it for 5-10 minutes and it'll soften up a little bit. That also works if it's frozen, so you can shave pieces off and it works quite well. If you'd like a video explainer of that, I'll stick the link up to a little household tips video that I did. Stuff that I figured you don't know until you know. So cut it into smaller pieces and then start working this together with a fork. I'll now go in with my hands and rub the butter together. You do want to try and do it just with your fingertips because your hands are quite hot and you don't want it to necessarily melt into an oily puddle of flour and goo. This is 40 grams of seeds. I use sunflower seeds, nigella, chia, brown linseeds, and black sesame. You can use whatever you like. I toasted them all in the oven quickly, all except the chia seeds because they were a last minute addition. I'm now adding 60 grams of chopped toasted walnuts and then just work all of that through together. If you see any large pieces of walnut, just break them up a little bit because otherwise it might be difficult to flatten the pastry out enough. I'm adding tablespoons of cold water, a few at a time. You want just enough water to bring it together. So do it, a bit at a time. You want enough water to get it to that kind of consistency where it will hold its shape. I've laid a strip of cling film down and I'm now just shaping this into a sort of round shape. It needs ideally at least 15 minutes in the fridge. I'll probably be doing it a lot longer than that while I assemble the other bits and pieces. I'm roasting my peppers in the air fryer. You can definitely do this in a conventional oven as well. It's absolutely fine. So I've put them in whole, spray them with oil, and what I'll be doing is roasting them until they're all black on the outside and then they're easy to peel. I've done them at 200 degrees for 22 minutes before. This time I think I'm going to take it to 220, hopefully for maybe 15 minutes. I'll do them at 205 because that's as high as the air fryer goes. While the peppers are roasting, I'm going to finely slice 5 sort of small to medium sized white onions and 600 grams of chestnut mushrooms. Peppers are done. I'm sticking them in this plastic tub with a lid. The steam will help the peels come off nice and easily as they cool down. Now that the mushrooms are all nice and thinly sliced, same with the onions, I'm going to roast the mushrooms. So I'll put the oven on at 200, put a bit of salt and pepper on them, give that a little rough mixing through. And I've just decided to make these garlic mushrooms, put these in the oven. And I'll be turning them over every few minutes. I've put a bit of oil at the bottom of the pan for the onions into my nice shiny new saute pan. Add some salt in at this point. And the salt helps pull some moisture out of the onions, which will help them caramelise and become really soft and sweet and yummy. You'll see that they start softening down, becoming a bit translucent. We need them to be a nice golden brown colour. You'll see that the mushrooms will release a ton of liquid. Stir them around. The onions have lost a lot of the liquid and they're starting to brown a little bit. I've added about half a tablespoon of demerara sugar to the onions, just to help with that caramelisation. There's still some liquid in there, but it's definitely disappearing. And at this point, I'm just adding a touch of Henderson's relish, similar in flavour to Worcester sauce. And that's really to just add a subtle little bit of extra flavour. Don't want too much because it's going to be garlic butter. But that will just give a nice rich roundness. A bit more salt and pepper. I'm going to put a touch of apple cider vinegar just to help kind of balance out the flavour because the onions are really sweet. So I think a tiny bit of tanginess will just help along. I could be completely wrong in this, but to me it seems like when you put vinegar in, it helps break it down a little bit so it gets even more jammy. Start rolling the pastry. Keep turning the pastry as well, just so you can help get it into more of a round shape than an oval, like I have here. My rolling pin is sticking a little bit, so I'm just going to lay that cling film back over it, see if that helps. Which it does. I've turned the heat off on the onions and I'll just leave it on the hot stove for the next few minutes. So the pastry, if I can get the edges shot for you, is about a couple of mils thick. You do want to get it quite thin. I'm working my way around the tin and then lifting it slightly just to push it in at the bottom corner. If you have any bare bits there, just shove another bit of pastry on. Using a sharp knife, I'm just going to trim back that excess dough at the top. Put this back in the fridge. The offcut bits I'm going to wrap in cling film and put in the freezer because that should be enough for at least one little individual tart so I can make something at a later date. I'm adding some margarine. You can use butter, I just didn't have enough. And I'll add maybe a couple tablespoons. I'm also adding 7 cloves of garlic that are all minced up. 7 sounds like a lot, but they were different sizes, so use your own judgment. Depends how much garlic you like. Give this a good mix through. And I'm also adding about 2 tablespoons-ish of chopped parsley. We'll put this back in the oven and let the residual heat that's in there just finish cooking off that garlic. And at this point, I'll go for the pea that I should have had 2 hours ago. The pastry's been chilling for about half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe longer actually. Time and space have a tendency to fold in this kitchen. Having it chilled stops it spreading too much too quickly. I've decided to leave it in the paper because that's going to make it easier to take it out again. The next step is going to be blind baking the tart cakes, and that's to help get it crisp enough, because if you start putting wet things on wet pastry, it just glues and goops and just, yeah, it's not very pleasant. Line it with baking parchment, a little trick, and scrunching it just makes it a little bit easier to get into corners. I'm going to prick the bottom of the case just to stop it from bulging up too much. Let some of the steam escape. And take one last minute just to make sure it's right into the bottom of the pan. And then I want to weigh it down as it's baking so it doesn't rise too much. And I use whatever dry beans you've got. So spread it around. And this is going into the oven at 160 degrees C.